Hello, once again, this is your old buddy Josh from Sipology blog with another video review, this time for Whiskey Friday. And it's not super warm out here, but I decided to do this one outside just because it's slightly warmer than it's been, and I need to get out of the house. And this is about as close as I can get under current circumstances. So, today we have a micro distilled rye whiskey from one of our favorite micro distilleries, and by our I mean mine. This is the single barrel rye from Starlight Distillery in Starlight, Indiana. And this is a single barrel selection made by our friends at Vine and Table in Carmel, Indiana. And you'll see it's barrel 1360, and it's 3 years old. Let me get out the rest of my notes here. All right, I like my notebook, sort of medieval themed notebook, my tasting notebook. I like it. It's easy to find and medieval, which is good. So we have here. It's a straight rye whiskey, Indiana straight rye whiskey. Like I said, it's 3 years old. It's 114.8 proof, which comes out to 57.4% alcohol by volume. Made in Starlight, Indiana, as I said, or technically Borden, Indiana, one of the two. It's a big place. And this the single barrel rye goes for $50 a bottle on the Starlight website. I don't remember what I paid for it at Vine and Table. I usually write the price on bottles of stuff that I get out of state that's not available here in Michigan for me to look up on the state website, but I neglected to do that in this case, so apologies. It was probably around $50 though. We've reviewed some of their stuff before. I believe we've reviewed their Private Reserve Brandy and then their Applejack Apple Brandy. I think we've reviewed both of those. I like them both, for the record. And I also, Liz and I also visited there a few years ago, back when Lisa Wicker was the master distiller there, and she has since moved on to Widow Jane Distillery in New York. So if you appreciate her work, check out Widow Jane. Anyway, let's see what else here. Oh yeah, one cool thing that's listed on the Starlight website is they have a 3-pack of 375 milliliter bottles of their single barrel bourbon, their port finished Carl T whiskey, and a single barrel rye that you can get at the distillery. I don't know if they ship or not. Michigan has weird shipping laws, so I normally just don't even ask. So I think that's it. Let's get to tasting. First, I'm going to look at the bottle here. I really like this. Bottle. This label design. It's pretty cool. It's informative yet decorative. It can be hard to get that balance sometimes. Anyway, so here we go. You can see it's in a Four Roses Glencairn. All my Glencairns have some kind of logo on them, so just how it goes. So let me see. Color is, I would say, medium copper. In the nose, I get some licorice and eucalyptus, some cayenne pepper, maybe some woodruff, although that may be wafting over from the woodruff I have in my garden just to my right. So, very nice nose. I like it. Herbal. An herbal rye. on the palate. It's full-bodied, undiluted. I get some maple candy, and then burn with a little bit of water. It brings out more toffee, orange peel, juniper, kind of. I know it sounds weird, but like potpourri type flavors. Even though potpourri is something you smell, not eat, ideally. And then the finish. Undiluted, I would say eucalyptus, peppermint, alcohol, like very kind of fill your nose up, kind of throat lozenge sort of flavors. Not that that's a bad thing. But then with water, as I just tasted it now, I'm going to say more cedar, white pepper, or maybe pink peppercorn, and alcohol, a little bit of like oaky and woodsy notes, although cedar is a wood, and certainly that counts as a woodsy note. So I like this whiskey. I did not do a lot of mixing with it because it's $50 and it's barrel proof. So I could always add water to it to dilute it down to a more kind of mixable proof where it doesn't overrun the other ingredients. But with this one, I'd rather just drink it. It's not, ironically, it's not a great example of what I would call the Indiana style of rye, which is really the Lawrenceburg, Indiana style of rye. It isn't really as minty. It doesn't have the kind of toothpaste kind of stuff that sometimes going on. Good example of that style. Is Bullet Rye. So it's kind of somewhere in between that and like a classic like Kentucky style rye, which is what we call the barely legal style rye, as my friend Chuck Cowdery calls it. So that style of rye is more bourbony. It has just like the legal minimum of rye. This one tastes at least like something kind of in between that. If I was going to compare it to another rye I've tasted, I'd say the closest would be Rittenhouse Rye Bonded, back when it was made by Brown-Forman. It has that kind of potpourri, orange peel kind of thing going on that did. So anyway, I would definitely recommend this. Sort of things to think about. While it is only 3 years old, and it is $50, which is relatively expensive. It is barrel proof and it is micro distilled, so you got to kind of factor in. Micro distilleries have higher costs than the big guys do. So you got to factor in that's gonna lead to a more expensive product. It just does. Maybe it shouldn't, but it just does. So factoring that in, and the fact that it's barrel proof, I think this comes out to a fair price. $50 being a fair price for this whiskey. I would not pay a whole lot more for it, but it's really good for what it is, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you and yours are staying happy and healthy, and we'll see you again next week. Take care. Peace.